Don't be afraid of the dark. Just relax and let the darkness fall over you.
Welcome back to Afraidish. I'm Andrew.
I'm Paul.
And this is episode numero doso.
Episode 2.
Episode 2. Oh, shit. Well, we got the first episode jitters out of the way.
Kind of. I mean, I'm still kind of nervous.
You'll be alright, man.
We'll get it.
Yeah, for sure.
If I sound kind of weird today, if anybody doesn't know, I'm a mail carrier, and I'm a rural carrier, so I have my windows down, and all the shit just flew in, and my allergies are fucking killing me.
All that pollen.
All the pollen. Tis the season for sneezing.
It's springtime.
It's springtime.
I'm fucking ready for it, though, man.
Me too.
The rain, the warm weather.
All the damn yard work.
Nah, I don't mind yard work, man.
Yeah.
I fucking love it. Just put my headphones on, zone out of my music. I just go at it.
Yeah. I have to put a fucking air mask on so I don't die.
Yeah. Because you're an asthmatic.
No.
No?
I had asthma as a kid, but now it's just like seasonal allergies.
Oh. Takes a fucking Claritin before you go mow your yard.
Every day.
Well, fuck, man. You ready to kick this shit off?
Yeah. Last episode, we forgot to say what we were drinking. It was Queen City American Lager by Great Escape Beer Works. It's a local brewery here in Springfield, Missouri, and it was pretty good. And today we are drinking
Woods Craft
Pale
India
Ale.
Pale Ale.
India Pale Ale. It's got a citrus, pine, and floral flavor. It's very good.
It tastes like roses.
Roses. Anyways, you want to go first?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
I do have 2 stories today.
Same.
I've got one about just an odd, appearance of dolls that were found just around a town in, up by, Jeff City in Jefferson County. And then for my second one, I have the Albino Farm, kind of just breaking down the history of it and kind of throwing in, a little bit of a skeptic side to it. And to kind of have a personal tale about it, I went, ghost hunting, and it was pretty fun. What about you? What do you got?
I've got 2 stories. I have an unsolved mystery and a haunted park.
What's the unsolved mystery?
The Springfield Three.
Oh, dope.
Yeah.
I mean,
if anybody around Springfield, they know from the early 90s, seeing the posters of the 3 women that went missing. And it's still a cold case in Springfield.
I was a child. Small child.
I was about 10 when they disappeared.
When did they disappear?
92.
I was a year old. Maybe not even a year.
Yeah.
Because I'm a youngin'.
You're a youngin'.
And your haunted park
is Phelps Grove Park.
I've heard some stories.
Under the bridge, yeah.
I've been there. I mean, never really saw anything, but it surely was creepy.
In the middle of the night, supposedly see I'll tell you later.
Alright, man. Well, I'm going to start with my odd appearance of dolls. So in August of 2019, this takes place in Festus, Missouri, which is a city in Jefferson County. It's got a population of a little more than 11,500 people. So in August of 2019, residents in Festus were getting a little spooked out over a series of life-size dolls that mysteriously started appearing throughout the area. The realistic, eerie dolls started popping up in strange locations throughout Jefferson County, Missouri. In the town of Festus, and some of them were without a face, and others were even headless. In an interview, a resident of Festus said, "At first, I didn't realize it was a doll." The resident told a local news reporter. I was like, "What is that?" It looked like it was crying and in timeout. And I was like, that's kind of creepy now. One of the dolls was seen laying on a rock without a head. Another was found hanging from a streetlight. And another looked like it was crying against a pole. Police say one resident called 911 out of concern that one of the dolls was a child on the side of the road. They said they're getting pretty good where they are putting them where they're going to be seen. This was at one major intersection of Festus Chief of Police Tim Lewis, I have a mush mouth, told the local Fox station in regards to one doll on a light pole. Many of the dolls look fairly similar, but are dressed in different colored dresses. As you can tell, it looked like a little girl. The hands were sewn to the face, but it had no face on it. If you were to see it from behind, it looks like a little girl. If you're out and about and you see it, it looks like a little girl crying against a pole, and someone is going to stop. And in this town, there are good-hearted people. People are going to stop to make sure that it's not a child. They are going to get hit, or they are going to get run over. And then you're dealing with a catastrophe. That was just what the chief of police, Tim Lewis, said. Lewis believed that the police thought it had been the work of a prankster. They never identified a suspect. Festus police said it was all fun and games until someone gets hurt, trying to save one of these realistic dolls from harm. Somebody thinks it's funny, somebody thinks it's cute, but it's all fun and games until somebody stops, thinking it's a child in distress and gets hit trying to help out. Festus Captain Doug Wendell told the reporter, "So whoever's doing it, we know you think it's fun and games, but it could be a very dangerous situation." And that's it. That's the end of my first tale.
Damn.
I know that story wasn't necessarily scary, but I found it interesting that they never even found the person or persons responsible for planting those dolls all over town.
Yeah, I know, it's just really creepy, though.
Who did it? I guess it's one of those unsolved mysteries that we'll never have an answer to.
Yeah.
Well, for my second story, or tale, or whatever you want to call it, I have the Albino Farm. So if any of our listeners are familiar or have even heard of the Albino Farm, it's supposedly haunted. I guess there was this family hired a albino groundskeeper.
Yeah.
In a southwest Missouri city lives possibly one of the biggest urban legends in the state. 70 acres is what's left of the once 338-acre family farm that predates the Civil War. The Albino Farm, formerly located between 3954 and 3978 North Spring Lawn Avenue in Springfield, Missouri. The family farm was originally called Spring Lawn. The family that owned it prospered. The farm was known for dairy cattle, draft horses, collies, and crops. Patriarch Mike Sheedy died in April of 1934, and eventually three sisters Agnes, Margaret, and Helen were left to manage the family's considerable holdings. The three sisters passed away, and the property, which included a house and various outbuildings, became uninhabited in 1979. The buildings were damaged in a 1980 arson fire when a barn was destroyed. Today, remnants of the farm buildings rise from thick, overgrown trees and brush. To me, I imagine it looks like a walk down the main drag of Machu Picchu. One story might or might not be true is that the sisters hired an albino caretaker who would scare the bejesus out of young people who trespassed onto the property to drink or party. Or maybe they were there because they couldn't resist a dare. A more far-fetched tale is there was a secret hospital on the grounds where half-cocked scientists performed experiments on albinos. Their albino ghosts, of course, supposedly still haunt the grounds. Now for a short personal story. This is actually, I went with my brother and some friends. So a few years ago, my brother, some friends, and I decided it would be a good idea to go ghost hunting there. From the eerie feeling we all got while we walked down the path to what we think were the remnants of what used to be the farmhouse, I do recall climbing down to what was left of that building and having felt like I had been pushed. Though not actually seeing anything, it did feel like we were being watched. After walking around as a group, we decided to split up into pairs. We decided to split up into pairs just to see if maybe we could find anything while being split up. While adventuring in different directions, none of us saw anything except what looked like a homeless camp that had been abandoned, and just some buildings that were, tore up. A short time passed, and we all decided to regroup and talk about our findings, if we had any at all. We had decided to meet back around the old silo, which wasn't hard to find even in the dark, because it was big, and someone had spray painted the foreboding message, evil awaits. There are other ominous messages left there from other people who had once explored the ruins. One of the messages is spray painted on an old building that just says, "Run." Once we all met up and talked about our lack of finding anything, we decided to leave and possibly find a different place to search for ghosts. But do you really think this land is haunted? Or is it just an urban legend created to scare people who aren't familiar with the area?
I don't know, man. Could be haunted. All those stories about the caretaker are supposedly just urban legend, but...
I mean, like, I don't know if you've ever been there.
No, I haven't.
But, like, when you pull up, there's these, like, concrete cinder blocks and then a pathway that leads you down to, like, the farmhouse or whatever. And, like, we had all gone and we were walking down that path and we started to climb down, like, into, like, the foundation of the house. And, like, I was, climbing down and I for real felt like I had been pushed, but there was nobody even behind me.
Yeah.
And I hit my back on a pole that was just, like, sticking out of the ground. But other than that, I didn't really see anything. We had these, like, EVP detector things on our phones that I don't necessarily think work.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they were pretty cool. And they had, like, words and stuff that would pop up. Like, if it, like... I mean, I don't know, like, if they, like, actually picked anything up or it was just, like, random words that would pop up.
Yeah.
But, like, I was standing there with my brother and we were looking at a house and he thought he saw something. And then all of a sudden, his phone app thing said, "Don't lie."
Oh,
I was
shit.
like, oh, that's pretty fucking cool.
Don't lie.
Don't lie. Like, no, you didn't see anything. There was nothing here.
Nothing here. Alright, now for my story. I am doing the unsolved mystery case of the Springfield Three. A lot of this comes from a show I watched on YouTube called Unsolved, The Mysterious Disappearance of Missouri Springfield Three. Let's get into it. On June 6, 1992, best friends Stacy McCall, 18 at the time, and Susie Streeter, 19 at the time, graduated from Kickapoo High School in Springfield, Missouri. Stacy, Susie, and a bunch of other friends were going to Whitewater, a water park in Branson, Missouri, the following day. After attending some graduation house parties, they stayed over at another friend, Janelle Kirby's house. But during the wee hours in the morning, they told their friend it was overcrowded. So Susie told Stacy she had a brand new king-size waterbed and they could spend the night at her house and meet everyone else at the water park in the morning. The girls went to Susie's mom's house, Cheryl Levitt, 47 at the time, at 1717 East Delmar around 2 a.m., and the three were never seen again. Cheryl was last heard from around 11:15 p.m. on June 6th after speaking with a friend on the phone about painting an armoire. Janice McCall, Stacy's mother, and some friends of Stacy and Susie visited the house the next morning after several failed attempts to contact her daughter. According to one friend, Nigel Holderby, Susie was very OCD. She was very meticulous about where she parked her car in the driveway. On that day, her car was in the circle drive instead of her regular spot in the driveway, as if someone else was in her spot. That was very suspicious to her friend. Janice saw the glass lamp shade from the porch light was shattered, but the bulb was intact. The door was unlocked, so she went inside. There was no sign of anyone in the house. Some friends cleaned up the glass on the porch. Police later determined they may have destroyed potential evidence. While inside, Janice found the TV on. The screen was snowy. Susie and Cheryl's Yorkshire Terrier named Cinnamon came running out of a room and was obviously agitated. Janice found all three women's purses were sitting on the living room floor. She also saw Stacy's clothes neatly folded from the night before. Cheryl's cigarettes were also left inside. She never left without them. Smokers. I'm glad I quit smoking.
Same.
Janice didn't call the police at first because she didn't think it was an emergency. She thought the women would walk in the door any time. Janice answered a strange and disturbing call from an unidentified male who made sexual innuendos. She hung up and immediately received another call of a sexual nature, again hanging up the phone. While waiting for their return, friends and family tidy up the house. They even fix a bent window blind. Another possible piece of evidence. They were trying to be helpful, but they were basically destroying and cleaning up possible crime scene evidence. The phone rang again. They let the call go to the answering machine. They listened to the strange message It was lewd and explicit like the other calls Janice answered. Someone deleted it thinking it was a graduation prank call. Police later estimated that the crime scene had been corrupted by 10 to 20 people who visited the house. That is crazy.
Yeah.
They finally called the police to report the women's disappearance. Police immediately determined there was foul play, but all the potential evidence was cleaned up by friends and family. Go figure. The police found something strange on a bookshelf in Susie's room, items that have to do with devil and satanic worship. Turns out, Susie was dating a bad boy who was into devil worship. Him and some friends broke into a mausoleum and stole the gold teeth out of a skull. Fucking gold teeth.
I want some gold teeth.
Yeah. Susie was so disgusted with that activity that she broke up with him. She agreed to testify against him and his buddies at trial. That trial was coincidentally a few months away from when she disappeared. He could have kidnapped her for revenge. Police questioned the boys and they denied the accusation. On the day of the disappearance, a witness saw a man telling a woman matching Susie's description to, quote, not do anything stupid. A server from George's Steakhouse near Levitt's home told police the women were seen around 2 to 3 a.m., but police never substantiated this claim. An unidentified transient was seen near the house shortly before the disappearance, but authorities don't know whether or not it was connected to this case. In 1993, investigators searched 40 acres in Webster County. In 1993, investigators searched 40 acres in Webster County that had been searched in a previous missing persons case. A search warrant confirms that they were looking for the 3 missing women. In 1997, Robert Craig Cox, a highly trained Army Ranger and a convicted kidnapper and robber in Texas, also convicted of murdering a woman in Florida, claimed he knew the Springfield Three were dead. Cox worked with Stacy's dad at a local car dealer and possibly took a liking to Stacy. He could have followed her home one day. Authorities interviewed Cox after confirming he moved to Springfield just weeks before the women's disappearance. He told journalists that he knew the 3 women had been murdered and buried and claimed their bodies would never be recovered. It's creepy because in the video interview, he says he knows that they're dead. It was pretty creepy.
Sounds pretty creepy.
Yeah. In 1992, Cox had been living in Springfield and when interviewed then, had told investigators that he was with his girlfriend at church the morning after the women disappeared, which she corroborated. However, she later recanted her statement and said that Cox had asked her to say that. Cox also stated that he was at the home of his parents the night of the disappearance, and they confirmed that alibi. Authorities were uncertain if Cox was involved in the case or if he was seeking recognition for the alleged murders by issuing false statements. Cox told authorities and journalists he would disclose what happened to the 3 women after his mother died. Another weird turn in this case has to do with Kathy Baird, a journalist and amateur detective. She got a tip that the women were buried under a hospital's parking garage. At the time, it was a dirt lot. She says she took that info to the police, but they pretty much laughed at her. So she hired a man who used high-tech ground-penetrating radar that can detect graves hidden under concrete. The man said he found 3 images on the radar. The man said he found 3 images on the radar. God damn it. Can't talk.
Learn to read.
The man said he found 3 images on the radar. Kathy finally told him she was investigating the disappearance of 3 women. Police and detectives say it's unlikely the 3 were buried in that area because excavating for the parking lot would have unearthed them. When interviewed, Kathy suggests Susie and or her mother, Cheryl, were the intended targets and Susie was collateral damage. Wrong place at the wrong time. When asked if she knew what the motives were, she said, quote, I'm not going to talk about that, unquote. So she knows, but she's not saying. She was then asked why she was doing the interview. She said, so the story could have an end. The show's producer even interjected, asking why she's doing the interview. Kathy eventually said people would follow her and her crew, saying they would be boxed in by vehicles, and someone came up to her and asked if she was Kathy Baird. She said yes. This person told her that, quote, people I work for make people like you disappear too.
What the fuck?
Yeah, that is creepy. She had death threats and was advised to leave this case alone. The Springfield PD has a small room dedicated to the nearly 10,000 tips that have to do with this case. The case of the missing women remains unsolved. In June 1997, a bench was dedicated to the women inside the victims' memorial garden in Springfield's Phelps Grove Park. The case has been featured on shows such as 48 Hours and America's Most Wanted, and Investigation Discovery's TV series called Disappeared, as well as a few podcasts. The women's descriptions as last seen were Cheryl Levitt, white female, date of birth 11/1/1944, 5 feet tall, 110 pounds, brown eyes, short bleached blonde hair, naturally curly hair, longer on the top and short in the back. Cheryl Levitt has a thin build and has freckles on her neck and upper chest area. Suzanne, or Susie Streeter, white female, date of birth 3/9/1973, 5'2", 102 pounds, brown eyes, straight bleached blonde, shoulder-length hair, large teeth, with no dental work. She has a 3.5-inch scar on the top of her right forearm and a small tumor in the left corner of her mouth, which gives the appearance that she has something in her mouth. Stacy McCall, white female, date of birth 4/23/1974, 5'3", 120 pounds, blue eyes, dark blonde hair to the middle of her back with sun-lightened ends. She has freckles on her face and a dimple in the middle of her chin. Just so many questions. Where could these women have gone? Are they still alive? Did Susie's ex and his friends kidnap them and dispose of them, or even sacrifice them? Could they have been abducted by aliens? Are they buried under the hospital's parking garage? Are they victims of human trafficking? No one truly knows. Yeah.
Sounds like, honestly, kind of sounds like a hit.
Yeah.
I
mean if that guy found three objects on his radar...
Yeah.
And he's been doing that for years, and it looks like he would if he went over a gravesite.
Yeah.
And police don't want to do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, but there was also that guy that approached...
Yeah, he was just weird.
Yeah, but he said, people are in my line of work or something like that. Like, we make people like you disappear.
Oh, that guy.
That guy.
Okay.
Like, kind of sounds like a hitman.
Yeah.
Or like a mobster.
Or just... I don't know. It's a strange case, and it's still unsolved, ongoing.
Do you know what the other podcasts were that covered that?
I forgot to write them down. I'm sorry. I mean, if you go to if you search
the Springfield Three
podcasts, there's a few that'll pop up.
I wonder if it's any of them that I know.
I don't know. I haven't listened to them. I should have, but I didn't.
I'll look them up.
All right. And my second story is called The Bride of Phelps Grove Park. You ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
All right.
I'm intrigued.
Okay, so the first part's a lot about the history of Phelps Grove Park, which I think is very interesting.
I don't know the history of Phelps Grove, like the park itself.
If anybody doesn't know, I love to do the history of the places that I'm doing, and Andrew does. He just goes into the story. I like it though.
I mean, so far the stories that I've done, they don't have a lot of setup, a lot of history. I mean, there's not a lot of written history about the Albino Farm that I could find that especially people around here don't already know.
Yeah. All right. Phelps Grove Park is a 44-acre park in Springfield, Missouri. The land was formerly a 1,500-acre farm owned by John S. Phelps and his wife Mary. In 1837, John and Mary moved to Springfield, where John became a prominent lawyer. He was elected to the Missouri House in 1840 and in 1845. He served 18 years in the U.S. Congress. John returned to his farm in Springfield, outside of town, after the start of the Civil War in 1861. He enlisted in the Union Army as a private, and by the end of 1861, he became a full colonel, which is badass. He fought at the Battle of Wilson's Creek, which basically, dude, that's like 4 miles from my house.
Yeah. I went there on a field trip once.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I'm sure if you went to school around here, you went there.
He fought at the Battle of Wilson's Creek, and after that battle, he and the remainder of the Union forces retreated to Rolla. While John was away, Mary nursed wounded soldiers and also cared for the body of General Nathaniel Lyon, who had been killed at Wilson's Creek, to prevent it from being disturbed by the Confederate forces. Mary soon began aiding the orphans of soldiers, bringing a number of them to live in their home on the farm. She also started the Mary Phelps Institute for Young Ladies that provided an education to female orphans and underprivileged girls. In March of 1862, John organized the Phelps Regiment of the Missouri Volunteer Infantry in Rolla and led them into battle at Pea Ridge, Arkansas. In July of that year, President Lincoln appointed him as military governor of Arkansas, but later resigned due to illness. John resumed his law practice in Springfield in 1864. In 1876, he was elected as governor of Missouri. Francis Here, the owner of a huge department store, and John Landers, whom I talked about in the first episode, the owner of Landers Theater and other businesses, partnered together to purchase a portion of the Phelps farm from the Phelps heirs. Here and Landers intended to develop the land into a nice residential neighborhood. In 1912, the two decided to create a park-like area to help sell the land around it. In 1914, they decided to install a lake with a waterfall. They sold 31 acres, including the lake, to the Springfield Park Board, and it officially became Phelps Grove Park. A stone pavilion was constructed in 1916. Springfield started a small zoo there and was later bought by Dickerson Park Zoo and was moved in 1922 to its current location. In 1928, the lake was drained due to sewage pollution. In 1936, an amphitheater was built where part of the lake was. In 1958, the art museum was built. In 1958, the art museum was also built in part of the lake bed. Have you ever been there? The art museum?
I don't think so.
I've been there. Ashley and I went for a party. Is
it pretty cool?
It's pretty cool, yeah.
I love
a lot
museums.
of local artists and stuff.
I love museums.
Yeah.
I love art.
It's pretty cool.
We have a giant fork. Have you seen that?
I have not, no.
I don't know where it's at. It's somewhere here in town, but there's a giant
I
fork.
think I remember. I just don't remember where it is. Yeah, I remember seeing it, though.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
And now for the haunting. According to Springfield legend, a couple who had just gotten married in the park were driving away in a horse and buggy. When they were crossing the bridge, the horses got spooked and the carriage lost control and flipped over off the bridge and landed on the bride. Since the ghost is fairly recent, some say they were driving in an automobile. It lost control and it flipped over off the bridge. The couple perished in the accident. The bride is seen at night under the park's third bridge, trying to search for her lost lover. She is seen holding the hem of her dress, and under her veil, where her face should be, there's only a black void. One person writes about her experience. She says, "My man and I decided to go for a walk around 11:30 one night in August. We had both heard of the ghost bride and wanted to see if it was simply a hoax. We sat on the bridge and just talked for a while. All of a sudden my boyfriend jumped up and pulled me back, saying that something had grabbed his foot. We looked down, and there she was. You couldn't see her face or anything, but her white dress was lovely. It is kind of sad, really." And of course there are skeptics. One writes, "From what I understand, the Ghost Bride is an optical illusion painting done under the bridge. It's hard to recognize it as anything during the day, but when you're driving at night, your headlights will reflect off the paint, and the painting appears to be a 3D ghost. Definitely a cool trick to play on friends or anyone visiting from out of town. So is this park actually haunted by the faceless bride, or is it an illusion caused by lights and paint? Either way, would going to this park at night make you afraid-ish?"
Well, I don't know about the paint and the lights, because I've driven past that park plenty of times. I've been there at night, in the dark, and cars have driven by, and it's not like there was no, like, reflection.
Well, I guess where this person was standing, apparently, I don't know. I've never been there.
Bullshit.
Yeah, well, it's either that or a real ghost. So.
I mean, in the realm of science, there are things that science can't even explain.
This is true, yeah.
But if that skeptic guy were anything of a science, minded person, he would know that that's not real.
We need to go there some night.
I
Look around.
I would go.
Yeah. And see if we tell everybody if we see anything or not.
I'd be down.
I am down to go ghost hunting anytime.
Me too. I love ghosts. Like, I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, I went with my old roommate and my brother and his friend. We went out to some cemetery, and like we walked around and we didn't really see anything or really hear a whole lot because like traffic and stuff that was driving by. But we got over to this like tree that had wind chimes on it, and like the wind chimes, there was no wind.
That's weird.
Like no wind, but the wind chimes were going, and we had a recorder, like a high frequency recorder.
Yeah.
And so we were just recording, and my brother was like, "Stop," and the wind chime stopped moving.
Wow.
And then they started moving again. So he was like, "What? That was kind of strange." You know, like there was absolutely no wind. So we played back the recording, and after he said stop, in the recording you hear the wind chimes stopping, and then all of a sudden it's like it sounded like something said no, like a really deep like no, and then they started going again. I mean that
is creepy.
That's what I love about ghost hunting, because I'm a skeptic. I love science, but even science can't explain everything.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the spirit realm, I guess is what you would call it.
Hell, it could be a different dimension that bleeds into ours.
No, and I've had that same thought. Like you hear all these stories about like demons and stuff. Like I don't believe in demons or anything like that, but like what if we're tapping into another dimension? What if like when you die, say souls were real, and when you die you go to another dimension, and like ghosts are just like, interdimensional beings, or the lack thereof a being, and that's how you see ghosts.
Yeah, maybe it makes sense. Because, like, say you feel something, or you see a ghost in your house, but then in the other dimension, that person or being sees something in their house.
And it's you?
That's
awesome. I like that.
It's like an interdimensional thing where you're, like, creeping each other out. But, of course, there are stories about, like, spooky shit, like demonic.
That's what I'm saying, like demons and stuff. Like, I don't necessarily believe in that stuff, but like,
I mean, if there are demons, there have to be angels, so if, like, there has to be...
Right. So like, I find stories like that so fascinating. Like, being a skeptic and, non-religious, like, why is it always like, if you pray, like, the demons supposedly get mad, but, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, supposedly, like, when you pray, that's why they bow their head, so it pisses the devil off or some shit.
Yeah, I don't know. But
I don't know.
I just think the idea of, like, ghosts and possessions are, like, super fascinating.
Yeah, I'm into it. I mean, I want to experience something, but...
Have you never experienced anything at all?
Well, yes. Well, you were talking about, like, going to a cemetery. I've been to a cemetery. I actually lived down the street from one in Verona.
Is it that one
the
cemetery?
Verona cemetery, yeah.
The, like, something creek?
I forgot what it's called, but I lived, like, up the hill from that one.
There's one out by where they have that corn maze. Yeah. And then there's one a little bit further, like a mile or two away from that.
I forgot where the maze was. No, it's not by the maze.
So it's the other one.
It's the other one, yeah.
I've been there too, and
dude,
it was...
I used to go there all the time because I lived down the street, like I said. And it's like Amish country out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So me and my friends were out there. We pitch black, probably midnight, I guess. And we were at the far back. It's fenced in.
They have cameras there now too.
Dude, this has been like fucking... I'm 38, so that's been 20 years ago?
Yeah.
No? When I was 18? Yeah, 20 years.
20 years.
Fuck, dude.
Math, bro. Do you even math?
I don't math. So 20 years ago, I was there. No, how to be... When I was 16 or 17, maybe. Anyways.
Over 2 decades.
Yes. Yeah, anyways. We were in the back part of the cemetery, and we were walking back in the pitch black. We could barely see. We heard this, like, crashing sound coming down from a tree.
Oh, shit.
And everybody stopped. and all at once we like, Mothman? I don't know why we all said that, but it's like, maybe it's a Mothman. And we went over there, nothing. No branch, no rocks, or anything near the tree.
The Mothman story is interesting. Maybe,
oh, I love that story.
Yeah. Maybe once we get there, I'll one of us will cover it.
I mean, it's actually everywhere because.
Well, I'm talking about like where it started.
Okay, yeah.
Speaking of that cemetery, I went there once with my brother and my old roommate, and like we didn't go inside until like we were there probably 15 minutes. Like, not gonna lie, I was fucking scared shitless to go inside because my brother and we saw this like tall, I'd say good 7 feet, probably like 6, 8, 7 feet tall figure walking back and forth between like headstones. And we're just like, what the fuck is that? But it was just like, it looked like it was staring at us, but as it was walking just like back and forth.
Yeah.
And then like we were gonna go inside, and then like you said, it's Amish country, so like there was a guy on a horse and buggy that was like riding around, so we didn't go inside because he like rode past us. We're like, oh, well, we don't want to get caught going in there. Like, you're not supposed to go in there. And they have cameras now. So after he left, we ended up going in there, and the figure was gone. Like, we didn't see it anymore. We didn't hear anything. Although I did almost walk into a spider web.
Oh,
with a giant fucking spider on it.
No thanks. I
had my flashlight, and I was just, like, looking, and I don't know. Like, I wasn't even looking in that direction, and I turned, and I, like, put my flashlight up, and there was a fucking spider like right in front of my face. I was like, I'm not gonna walk that way. I'm gonna go in the opposite direction.
Yeah, and I've had a couple more experiences, very personal and very, for me, kind of heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
Because our grandma, when she passed away,
yeah.
I met Kendra, my first wife, and we were in my apartment one day. And she felt something weird in the kitchen, and she's like, "Come here." And I went over there. As soon as I stood in the kitchen, I dropped to my knees and started bawling because I knew it was my grandma, our grandma, and it still gives me chills thinking about it.
I've had a similar experience.
Yeah.
I remember like anytime I ever stayed the night at grandma's house. Like sometimes I sleep with my feet out of the covers. And she would always cover them up, and she would always touch my foot, and I would always wake up. And one night, I was probably, I think it was 18, so it was about 12 years ago.
Yeah.
I was living with a girlfriend at the time, and we were sleeping, and I felt something touch my foot. So naturally, I woke up because something touched me while I was sleeping, and what looked like was like a shadow or like a figure that looked exactly like Grandma.
Yeah, she was 4'9", 4'10",
something like
when
that.
She passed away. Yeah, she was pretty short.
She was short.
Yeah, I miss her.
I do too. Loved her to death.
Yes, she was my favorite. We were like best friends. I would go to church with them all the time and just take care of them whenever. Because I was the oldest grandson, so I was always there. Always.
Yeah.
And then my other experience was my first wife passed away due to an illness. Kendra, we were all friends and we hung out a lot. And after she passed away, I couldn't do anything.
I remember.
I took a lot of time off work, and anyways, I was sleeping. I think I was like in and out of sleep, like kind of like crying, I guess.
Right.
I was laying there, and I saw, I was like kind of like an out of body experience.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at myself and her sitting next on the edge of the bed, just rubbing my back, and I could actually feel it.
That's adorable.
I know, but yeah, that was a good experience in my life. She taught me a lot, and I did. She was only 2 years of my life, but I'm glad I experienced that.
She was a good woman.
Yeah,
she was a very good woman.
So, you got anything else?
I don't. Well, welcome to our personal lives, listener. It won't be like this every week, but I figured, the first episode was a little rough. We wanted to try to get something out. I figured this week we could just, we would tell our stories, maybe tell a little bit of our personal life, and personal experience.
And be a little bit more relaxed. I feel like this time was a little bit more relaxed. And I hope we'll get better. I mean, this is only episode 2.
Well, they say it takes like 40 episodes or so to have a good podcast, to get better.
That's true.
You gotta get better at your craft.
Yeah, we'll get there. Don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes and anywhere else. Listen to us on anywhere you get your podcasts, because I finally got that fixed. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're basically on everything except for YouTube right now.
Right. And our website is up.
Yes. Afraid-ishpodcast.com. Our email is afraidishpodcast.com. No hyphen.
Oh, that's our email?
What did I say?
You said email.
Sorry. Yes. our email is afraidishpodcast@gmail.com.
So feel free to email us with, tips, personal stories, anything.
Yeah, we would love to have your personal stories so we can read at least one each at the end of the episode, maybe.
Right, depending, on how many we have. Yeah. Eventually I would love to do that. I would love to read your stories on this podcast.
Yeah, and if you don't want us to read your names, just don't.
Just tell us. We'll edit it out as, we put it into a story.
Yeah, we won't change anything. Don't worry if it's too long.
There's no such thing.
No such thing
as too long.
No such thing. Because it's frustrating hearing people read saying, "Oh, I'm sorry if this is too long." Yeah, don't worry about that.
3 out of 5 stars. Sorry. That's a time suck reference.
I finally got caught up on
Scared to Death?
Scared to Death.
Right on.
And
I love Scared to Death.
I think I might need to get sucked in.
You need to get sucked?
Sucked
by the almighty Dan Cummins.
Shout out to Dan. I mean, him and his wife are amazing.
I love them.
Their podcast, Scared to Death. You should check it out. And I have yet to check out Time Suck, which I will start.
He's got another one
called
Is We Dumb?
Is We Dumb? Yeah,
He does it with Joe Paisley. Yeah. I haven't listened to that one yet, but I hear it's hilarious.
Also, thanks to a couple of podcasts that got me started on Podcast Mate. The podcast that took my podcast virginity was And That's Why We Drink. Thank you, Em and Christine. And also to the girls at Wine and Crime. Listening to them, they're pretty hilarious. That's the only true crime podcast I actually listen to. I mean, there are other good ones. I'm listening to 10 podcasts. So those are the first 2 podcasts I've ever listened to. So shout out to And That's Why We Drink and Wine and Crime. So what were your first podcasts?
First podcast I ever listened to, they weren't true crime.
That's right.
Or even scary, but I started out with Star Talk.
Never heard of it.
You don't know what Star Talk is?
No.
It's Neil degrasse Tyson. It's
cool.
His podcast. Yeah. It's very educational.
Sweet.
And I love to learn. Right now I've been listening to, while waiting for new episodes on Time Suck and Scared to Death, I've been listening to This Is Important. Did you ever watch the show Workaholics?
No, but I've heard of it.
So it's Blake, Adam, Anders, and Kyle, the main guys from Workaholics. They're all best friends,
cool.
And they have a podcast called This Is Important, and it's fucking hilarious. I'll listen to it at work, so I wear my mask all day.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of a good thing that I wear my mask all day, so nobody is always looking at me what the fuck are you laughing about? I'm oh, you wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
Because they're fucking hilarious. I love those guys. Those are the the main podcasts I listen to. Just those. I haven't really branched out.
Yeah.
Thanks for, everything, and thank you for, kicking me in the ass and, getting me ready to do this.
You're welcome. Yeah, thanks to all of our listeners. Sure we'll get more than the 20 we have right now.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. All right, thanks guys. See you next week.
See ya.
And remember, don't be afraid of the dark. Be afraid-ish
of what's in it.